Hi guys, this is Alex from Masson Design Build. Today with a sew along, we're going to be working on pattern M8147. This is from McCall's early spring 2021 line. I know that it's got a different pattern number on my pattern here, but it's actually M8147. I'm actually going to link it below, but we are going to be using a crepe fabric. The pattern calls for charmeuse crepe, cotton blends, and challis, but a green, beautiful crepe, it is it. So let's get started. Okay guys, so again, today we're going to be working with Waverly McCalls, and this is pattern M8147, and we're going to be doing view C. So let me show you what pieces we're going to need. We're going to need pattern piece number 1, cut 2. We're going to need pattern piece number 2, and you have to cut this on the fold. We're also going to need pattern piece number 4. These are the sleeves. We're also going to need pattern piece number 7, cut 2, and this is for the collar. We're also going to need the facings, and this is pattern piece number 8, and it says cut 1, unfold, and you're also going to have the interfaces. And pattern piece number 9, this is the back facing, and you have to cut 2, and you also have to interface 2. Go ahead and cut your fabric, and let's get started. Okay, so the pattern asks us to go ahead and stay stitch 1/2 inch away from the edge, and I don't know if you can see that. I matched the thread to what looks like to be to a T, but I stay stitched 1/2 inch away from the edge, and this is for both back pieces. And then I'm also going to stitch those 2 back pieces together, 5 1/8 inch seam allowance from the large dot all the way to the end. And I'm going to go ahead and backstitch at the start and at the end. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so I went ahead and stitched my 2 back pieces together. I also went ahead and pressed my seams open, and I also serged my seams. But now we are going to flip this over, and we are going to grab our front piece, and again stay stitch along the neckline, and you're going to go ahead and with right sides together, you're going to pin both sides. So with right sides together, front and back piece, you're going to pin on both sides, and you're going to stitch 5/8 seam allowance at the start and all the way to the end. And don't forget to lock in your stitches at the start and at the end. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, once we have stitched both sides of the seams, go ahead and press your seams open and finish your seams. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so I went ahead and stitched my front to my back. I went ahead also and press my seams. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this to the side, and I am going to grab one of my sleeves, and it looks like, let's see, all right, there's a washi tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitched. Go ahead and stitch. Good thing that washi tape is there. It tells me where's the inside. So you're going to go ahead and stitch the big notch here together. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pin all of this together. And I'm pinning as close as I possibly can to the edge, just because I don't want to put any more holes than I need to in my fabric. So go ahead and pin as close as possible, especially if you're using like a charmeuse or a silky fabric. So go ahead and stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance at the start and at the end. And once you do that, it also asks you to stay stitch at the top of the sleeve. So go ahead and don't forget to stay stitch 1/2 inch away from the raw edge at the top of your sleeve. So go ahead and do that for both sleeves. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish the seam, press it open, and stay stitch. Okay, so I went ahead and stitched that opening in my sleeve, and I also pressed it. I finished my my little opening, and then I stay stitched 1/2 inch away from the raw edge. And now we are going to go ahead and stitch the sleeves. And don't forget to match your notches. So you're going to go ahead and pin all the way down. And you are going to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance. Don't forget to finish your seams. And of course to press them, because pressing is the difference between homemade and looking very expensive. So don't forget to do that. So we are going to go ahead and stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance at the start and all the way to the end. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and at the end to lock in your stitches. Go ahead and do that for both sleeves. Okay, now that we finish our sleeves and we finish a notch at the top, we're gonna go ahead and create a casing for our elastic. So the pattern calls for us to turn the raw edge at the bottom of the sleeves 1/4 of an inch. Go ahead and do that all the way around. And then I suggest before you stitch this as close to the edge that you press this, because it'll help you keep this down. And you're gonna leave a small opening because we have to loop the elastic thread through. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna show you how you kind of like loop this through. But go ahead and turn your entire sleeve 1/4 of an inch, because you want to create a little channel to put that in. So start there and then just keep going all the way around. I'm going to give this a good press before I do this on my machine. But keep going all the way around. And again, make sure you leave an opening, because we have to go ahead and loop our elastic through. So we need a little hole to do that through. So go ahead and do that all the way around and do that for both sleeves. Do that now. All right, so we went ahead and we created a little channel for our elastic. So grab a safety pin and you're gonna loop it through that opening that you left. You're just gonna loop it around that channel and make sure that you don't lose the elastic. You can always pin it. Let's do that. Let's pin it so we don't lose it. I'm gonna pin it onto the seam allowance. All right, so just keep looping through. And this is gonna be gathered in your cuff. So loop it through. That's what's gonna give you kind of like that gathered around your cuff. All right, now that we have it all together, I'm just gonna make sure that the gathers are even all around. Okay, so once you have these two together, glad I pinned that. So you're gonna go ahead and you are going to stitch this together and make sure it's not twisted anywhere inside. You're going to go ahead and you're gonna stitch the elastic together, and then you're gonna go ahead and close your channel and your sewing machine. Go ahead and do that for both sleeves. All right, guys, we went ahead and enclosed that little opening that we had for our elastic. So that's how your like your cuff, like around the wrist, should look. So now we are going to go ahead and attach our sleeves to our bodice. Okay guys, so we got our sleeves done and now we are going to set in our sleeves. So remember those notches, and you're going to go ahead and with right sides together, slip your sleeve. And of course, you're gonna start with the bottom where the seam meets. And then next, you are gonna make sure that your notches are together. So in this case, one notch means the front, two or more just means the back. You're gonna go ahead and keep pinning all the way down and around. Okay guys, so you're gonna go ahead and pin both sides of the sleeves on both sides, and you're gonna stitch 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and at the end. The pattern calls for you to also stitch again 1/4 of an inch away from the sleeve. I'm gonna go ahead and just finish my seam. Go ahead and do that now. Okay guys, so we got our sleeves done. I went ahead and pressed my seams. I also finished my seams. So we're gonna put the bodice to the side and we're gonna work on the collar. So you're gonna go ahead and stitch your collar from end to dot. You're gonna stop and you're gonna start again from large dot all the way to the end, 5/8 inch seam allowance. Once you do that, I want you to turn it over. I want you to press it, okay? And it's going to look like this. This is what it's supposed to look like. And remember, this is cut on the bias. So make sure that when you press this, you don't go pressing up and down. You press down, you lift, you press, and you move on to the next section. You don't want to go up and down because this is cut on the bias and we don't want it to stretch anymore. So be careful with this. Go slow and do both of them now. Okay guys, so we got our collar pieces done. So now we're gonna attach them to the bodice. So we're gonna go from circle, there's a triangle which usually signifies the shoulder seam, and then we have another circle. So we're gonna start there with raw edges and right sides together. We're gonna pin here. We are going to pin at our shoulder seam, which is right here. And then we're going to pin at our other circle right there. And it says to stretch to fit, right? Okay guys, so I went ahead and basted my collars in on both sides. So we're gonna put this off to the side and we're gonna grab our front and back facing, and those are pieces 8 and 9. So remember, these got interface, and I also went ahead and make sure I kept my notches. So we are going to, with right sides together, you're going to pin at the notch on both sides. That's one side, and then the other side. Again, find your notches. Make sure you pin. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch 5/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides, and I'm going to go ahead afterwards and press my seams open. And then after that, I'm also going to finish the outer edge of the facings on both the front and the back. So go ahead and do that now. I went ahead and stitched my front facing to my back facing. I also pressed the seams open. I trimmed them a little, and then I also finished the outer edge. So now you're going to grab your bodice, and of course you're going to start from those front notches, and then right sides together. So when we flip this, the right side is inside towards your body. So of course, pin the notches first. I'm gonna pin at the middle. Make sure you you keep your collar down, right? Because we don't want to stitch on that. Then pin. Keep pinning. And right there, we're going to end right there. Okay, and then we're going to keep going on the other side. We're going to pin. Shoulder seam. Keep going, keep pinning. We're going to pin here at the end. Okay, now that you have all of this pinned, you're going to stitch from the middle towards the back and then down, and again towards the middle to the back and then down. I don't stitch from one end all the way to the other. Again, from the middle out. And you want to do that because you want to make sure that your fabric stretches as you are stitching. So go ahead and do that now. Now that we got our facings attached to our bodice, we need to understitch the facing. So we need to trim, and then we also need to clip any of our curves so the facing lays flat. And then we also need to understitch, and we want to understitch because we want the facing to roll towards the bodice and not towards the neckline, and not towards the bodice. So that's what we want to do. So let's start here. We are going to clip our corners. And you can also trim your edge. Probably gonna do that just because I'm trying to get rid of some of this bulk. Okay. So little now. Trim. this just ever so slightly, and perhaps ooh, it's still pretty bulky there. All right, much better. So again, we are going to understitch. We want to understitch. I don't think my machine will be able to get all the way over here, but I'm definitely going to try to start from here all the way down and keep going all the way around, just so your collar rolls towards the inside. All right, so let's do that now. All right, guys, we again are gonna understitch, so you wanna make sure you have your seam allowance towards the facing, and you're going to stitch as close as you can to the edge. All right, now that we did our facing and we went ahead and pressed it, I also want you to go ahead and stitch your facing towards your seam allowance and spots like the shoulders, right? And then I'm going to fold the back collar and attach it discreetly towards the edge, and then I'm going to put 2 hooks just so I can put on the blouse. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and do the hem, which is you're going to fold once and twice, and you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch away, and then you're all done. I hope you enjoyed this sew along. See you next time. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that sew along. Please don't forget to visit us at Instagram at Masson Design Build, and visit our website at massondesignbuild.com for pattern reviews and also links to our video. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.